AM 660, The Answer, WORL. I'd go to the mat with these guys any day.
Okay, welcome back to the show, folks. And, of course, one of Rock's great friends is our very own Sunny, and she'll be joining us from California, our California Glow Girl. That's Gorgeous Lady Wrestling in the next segment of the show. You can join us at any time. It's 1-774-8255. Excuse me. All right. We're great. Actually, 3 great phone calls on our Who Said That contest tonight. And believe me, this move towards tyranny takes many, many different, how should we say, approaches. And there's a latest approach is to try to criminalize free speech. And Elizabeth Warren, she's sort of in the middle of this. She, for instance, a think tank scholar fired for the nerve to file a report that a new federal regulation might cost the economy in America billions of dollars. Oh, Ms. Warren couldn't have that being said. By the way, Miss Warren, you know, the champion before Bernie Sanders, she was touted as being the champion of the little guy and against Wall Street and all that stuff. Well, let me just read from a little piece in the Sunday edition of the Wall Street Journal, as one of our listeners likes to call it. It says,
clever.
Meanwhile, Senator Warren doesn't seem to want to live by the rules she enforces on others. Recall that she drove Robert Litton out of the Brookings Institution last week, in part because his research on new financial regulations was funded. In other words, he did a report on some new financial regulations that she was touting as being, you know, good for the economy, good for banking, and all this. And the report showed that, well, they're going to cost, you know, billions of dollars. And guess who that's going to cost is going to be transferred to? Well, obviously, always the customer, which is us. All right. Well, she had him fired because he was funded in part by Capital Group, and the website Open Secret. Let me say that again. Ms. Elizabeth Warren, the half-breed Cherokee Indian, had this man fired because she didn't like what he was saying. Had nothing to do with the fact, although she said it had to do with the fact, that his study was funded by Capital Group. What difference should that make? If you have a problem with the results of the study, show a different study which proves your point. No, she had the guy fired. And in the meantime, her $600,000. All right? And then it goes on. Perhaps she'd say it's fine for her to use her Senate Banking Committee perch to rake in contributions from financial firms because she often disagrees with them. In other words, she disagrees with them, but that makes it okay to take their money. As though somehow that means she's not being on the take. But don't let that fool you. All right? That's all for show. She's taking the money because she's on the take, and it makes it more easy for her to be. From the education industry, which benefits from her campaign to expand education subsidies. So, in other words, little Miss Half-Breed, Ms. Warren, who sells herself off as some kind of Michael Moore savior to the downtrodden who've been getting stepped on by these Wall Street bankers and all these types. Well, she's, let's see, 2 million, 1.3 million, 600,000. That's $4 million. All right, so that brings us to, let's see the senator's name here, Sheldon Whitehouse, United States Senator. All right? He says that one additional tool to be used in the fight to promote climate change legislation should be the RICO Act. Now, most of you folks out there probably have never had occasion to be familiarized with the RICO Act, and that's a good thing because it's an act you don't want to be familiarized with unless it's to educate yourself about it or hear about it on a show like this, because you certainly don't want your lawyer telling you that the feds are coming after you and they're using the RICO Act, because that means that you fixing to get reamed. The RICO Act is the Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. And it was originally passed to go after mafias. But more recently, the Obama administration and others like this Sheldon Whitehouse, what a name, Whitehouse, right? Sheldon Whitehouse, are wanting to use the RICO Act to go after political opponents. And in this particular case, he wants the RICO Act to be used to go after people like John L. Casey, people who are out there doing research and publishing papers and books and other forms of media to get the word out, like this radio show, that this climate change business is a hoax. Now, they don't use word hoax. They use more scientific data. Like John L. Casey, if you read his book, Dark Winter, you will see it's very scientifically oriented. Easy to understand, but very scientific. And it's backed up by scientific research, scientific fact, actual scientific pursuit, not some pseudoscience that's based on a political theory at the end of the day. And so they want to criminalize these activities. In other words, they want to criminalize free speech. Sounds to me like we need the Second Amendment now more than ever. Right? Because basically, wants to take away the First Amendment. As a matter of fact, he wants to make criminals, he doesn't want to just take it away, he wants to make criminals out of people who exercise it. People like John L. Casey. People like, let me see the person, Judith Curry, who's a Fox News analyst. She's a Georgia Tech professor. I wonder if she's related to Bill Curry, who played on the Georgia Tech football team a long time ago. Also played on Baltimore for Don Shula, and eventually ended up coaching Alabama. Anyway, they want Mr. Whitehouse, that's the Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator, wants to go after guys like Willie Soon of Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. Now, what would a senator in the United States Senate, why would he want to go after a professor at Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics? In other words, a professor who studies astrophysics, who might actually know a little something about climate change. Well, why would they want to go after him? Because he's published politically inconvenient research on changes in solar radiation. The very same thing our own John L. Casey bases his research on. They want to make criminals of us. They want to arrest us. That's why we need the Second Amendment.